Anybody to report it or say that she was thrown to the ground? It's just another day.
Because the people that are filming this, they already see what those guys would say if they called them. They already see what it was. So
may I ask this question, John? So this footage, and Mr. McCoy, is that correct? Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the footage that you're presenting, what benefit is it going to be in your behalf, on your behalf?
Okay. So let me get back and cover some stuff. John did a fantastic job.
Yes, he did. Thank you, John.
Okay. First of all, you know, the film right there, like John said, it's cartoonish, but it's more to our story than that. Here it is, the FBI agent who is supposed to be real good, identified a gentleman. Now that gentleman that went in the car with her, he's about 6'4". We got his information. She identified an officer 5'7", who looks like a teenager. That gentleman right there is 6'4", and he, at the time of this robbery, he looked like he was in his early 30s. He looked like he was in his early 70s. She also identified the driver of the car as being none other than Edward Lee Jackson Jr., better known as Pac-Man, who they ostracized. And it opened up another kettle of worms because this was just the probable cause. They couldn't destroy the film because people were looking for the film, so they couldn't get rid of it. So they were stuck with this. And they were stuck with it for about at least almost 90 days. They were in a dilemma because after this thing had transpired, they knew they were in trouble. Now, they all would have been charged with robbery of an FBI agent, so they had to clean up themselves. And Phil, who was participating in this robbery with Michael W. Hoke's hat on his head, that John didn't point out. Even their paid guy, Mr. Myron Robinson, had Michael W. Hoke's other hat on his head. So now that put Michael W. Hoke right at the crime scene. He was going to go to jail for a long time for the robbery of an FBI agent. So now me and Mr. Davis got together. Like he said, he'd been on this he came in with me on full time 20 years ago. And we started researching because there's more to this. There was an indictment. They started incorporating anybody and everybody. The man that they set up, or they tried to set this sergeant up named Eugene Shepard, he played the role of Silky the drug dealer. But John couldn't show you in that illustration, him and another police officer named Joseph Earhart, who was later killed working with the FBI. Their job was to tail Mr. Charles Vaughn in that undercover police car from Pulaski and Augusta all the way over to Bloomingdale, where he was going to perform that robbery by himself, watch him take the car back over to Pulaski and Augusta, where Myron Robinson would meet him and take the car. Nobody would know the difference. And they were not going to arrest anybody but me because me and Mr. Vaughn looked so close together. But when they stepped in it, they stepped so much in it that they had to create all these different little scenarios because Daley and them was so much in trouble after this episode here that he gave Michael W. Hoke $3.5 million from January the 1st to December the 31st, 1996, to frame other officers to get all of them out of it, because now all of them were going to be charged with the robbery of an FBI agent. And as John said, it wasn't so comical, but Officer Edward Jackson Jr., who they named in this robbery and tore up this young man's life, got 150 years for this robbery. M.L. Moore, who wasn't on my team, got 109 years. Ramos got 49 years.
Jesus.
Cornelius Tripp got 15 years. Gregory Crittleton got 12 years. Jimmy Young, a war hero, a sergeant, they lied and said he did something wrong. He got 10 years, and his young daughter, 9 years old, while he was in the penitentiary, died. And they gave another officer who they said participated in this robbery, she named in this robbery, named Lennon Shields, he got 4 years. Wow. Because he lied on himself. Me and John Davis, we discovered that when these young men were arrested on December the 20th, 1996, and the story was all over the pages of the city of Chicago for years, the Austin 7, when they got kidnapped off the street and taken down to the MCC, they were thrown into solitary confinement.
Oh, wow.
Where Officer Edward Jackson Jr. spent 59 months in Sieg, a cell all by himself, because he wouldn't lie on himself and said he did this robbery, and wouldn't lie on me and other members of our team.
Oh my goodness.
But that's not the kicker. The kicker that we trying to get y'all to see right now, and I appreciate Mr. Davis and Ms. Carter allowing me to come on to tell this story, because most people don't know this story. John Davis and me, and I've done the investigation step by step. Everything is no flaw in our investigation. And John Davis has been there with me through this whole ordeal. Every time I come up with new evidence. We were looking for this gentleman's field for years. Finally, in the year 2009, we finally got his full name. The federal government did not want us to find him. So they put out that thing, field last name unknown, and allowed him to go and not be charged with this crime.
Oh,
but they charged Charles Vaughn because they couldn't put me there, so they had to put Charles Vaughn. They charged Lennon Shields and Officer Jackson with robbery, but they charged Charles Vaughn, who you see on the film, with extortion. These other two officers weren't even there, but they got charged with robbery, indicted for robbery, and Charles Vaughn got extorted for extortion. And we finally found, in 2009, we finally found out what Phil's name was. His name is Philip K. Edwards. Identified, I had people identify him as the person on that film. He's been positively identified. And during the course of our finding this gentleman in 2009, we did a forensic on his whole history, criminal history. And we found out that in July the 11th, 2000, he killed a lady that we became her agents, Mrs. Marla Taylor.
No,
he killed her son. Yeah. Donnie A. Taylor. In fact, John, let me change that, strike that. He didn't kill him, he assassinated him. Mr. Taylor, Donnie Taylor, was on in the 11th district, according to his mother, Marla. She told me this. He was in the 11th district talking to two guys he knew and a young lady he didn't know. Mr. Philip K. Edwards came looking for her. He was driving a car, and he lowered the window of that automobile and aimed a pistol at her. And Donnie Taylor jumped in front of her, and the coroner told her the first bullet that hit him dead in the heart.
Oh my God.
Oh,
At the time, at the time that Mr. Philip K. Edwards did this murder, he was fighting a UUW by felon out of Maywood Courthouse. A UUW by felon is automatically taken off the street. He was identified by the two men and the woman, and when she went to Mount Sinai that night, July the 11th, 2000, being a nurse herself. Now, let me give you a backstop and give you a little bit of background on her real quick. Marla Ann Taylor was born the same year I was born, 1950. She went to Crane High School. I graduated out of St. Philip's High School at 17 in 1968. She graduated out of Crane High School in 1967 at 16 years old. She was very smart. She went to Malcolm X and I went to Malcolm X, and I didn't know her. And she got her degree, an AA degree in nursing. She finished up at St. Xavier University in the School of Nursing, and St. Xavier University is the #1 nursing school in the state of Illinois. I don't care, Northwestern, University of Chicago, St. Xavier University is the #1 nursing school, and she got her degree. And she worked at the University of Chicago. So imagine her helping people through death and seeing death. And she walks in that night at Mount Sinai and see her son on that gurney dead. And she told me, she said, my son wasn't doing anything wrong. He wasn't the greatest kid in the world, but he wasn't a bad kid. And it was the only child I had. I met her in 2012. I got the information in 2019. And I finally found out, because they had hid it, and me and John was working on it. And I finally found out that they came from Paulina and Lake Street. And I knew some people over there. In fact, I knew the men over there who gave me permission, told me to tell the people that they know me, I know him, and he knows me, and for them to talk to us. I met her in 2012. And when I met her to inform her, I said, did the police ever tell you they found the man that killed your son? Because there is no record of him ever being, he was arrested, but he was never arraigned. She said, Officer McCoy, since 2000 till today, 2012, you're the first policeman to come and talk to me. Every time I call a cold case squad, they tell me they're working on it. I said, they can't be working on it. And I handed her the arrest report. I said, is that your son's name as the victim? She said, yeah. I said, that's the man, showed her the picture, that's the man killed your son. I asked her, I said, when you were in the hospital at Mount Sinai that night, I know how this game worked. You had to talk to a police officer. Who did you talk to? She said, I couldn't remember his name, but he's as tall as you, and I'm 6'5", and he was white, and he wore glasses. And on the arrest report, the man's name is David March. And when David March got arrested got indicted for the cover up the Laquan McDonald murder, trying to get Jason Van Dyke out, me and John Davis met and went over to 26 in California to get a picture of him, because we needed that picture of David March, because he's the #1 guy on that arrest report. And we went over there, and we were able to receive copies, because we didn't know who he was. We just knew his name, but we didn't have no information on who he is. But I surmised this, and now I'll shut up because I'm going on too long. Here it is. When they arrested Mr. Philip K. Edwards, November the 10th, 20, they arrested him November the 10th, 2000, and they took him over to Kedzie and Harrison, and they processed him for this murder. And then they took him out of the lockup, and they took him upstairs where Area 4 detectives are, homicide detectives. And they probably told him, brother, you gonna fry, because when you did this murder, you were fighting a UUW by a felon. That's a capital case punishable by the electric chair. And remember, George Ryan had not put a moratorium on the electric chair at that time.
Wow.
They kept him up there for 48 hours. And I surmise this, that Mr. Philip K. Edwards beckoned for David Marsh to come into the interview room. He wanted to talk to him. And he told him, if y'all fry me for this murder, I'm going to tell about the Austin 7. I'm going to tell that it was me, Myron Robinson, Herb Brown Jr., and the whole IAD Corrupt Practices Police Department framed them Austin 7 guys for things they didn't do. And I don't mind going because all of them going to jail too. And we surmise that David March was told to open up the door, hand him his stuff back, tear up the paperwork, and allow him to walk the street. And Mr. Philip K. Edwards right now, in the year 2022, is walking the street, a known murderer that the police let out onto the streets right now in our community. And that's the end of my commentary.
Can I ask a question? This is Jill Jackson.
Sure.
What was the point of the robbery?
The point of the robbery.
What was the point? Why?
The point of the robbery was to get me arrested. Right, that was the point of the robbery. You needed probable cause. Right. You had to get, see, if they said that I robbed this woman and she said, yes, that's the gentleman that robbed her. She's an FBI agent. They were going to dirty me up and say I did it. And she went along with it because she misidentified, or purposely, like John saying, purposely identified 2 officers that weren't there. Then she would have did the same thing to me.
Right.
And then they would have arrested me. And then I would have been fighting a case because me and John, I don't know if I said this, I don't think John said it either. Michael Holt was the first partner to John Burge. And they were both accused of framing and torturing Black suspects all over the city.
Yes.
But I want to also add, hello, this is Jerry. Can I speak for a second?
Sure.
Okay. Sure. If he's saying that he turned crime around on the West Side, I believe that this is what you're saying, sir. He's saying he described his work over a decade as diminishing crime and doing away with the presence of drugs in the community. What he is describing is that they, in fact, went out and they did all of this to bring him down. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But that's how they operate. I mean, it's sad that it's shocking to us as Black women that we don't realize, that we are not aware of the treachery of the Chicago Police Department, that we don't understand the level of the treachery that these men really deal with as men trying to protect the community, how bad things really are.
Yeah.
We are not aware of that. I mean, we wear blinders and we act like these men are just talking about, walking in the park. They are dealing with people that do any amount of treachery to bring people of good down.
Yeah, they do. Yes.
So this is, I mean, it just, they're kind of evil. Sometimes you're not able to comprehend. It doesn't rationale for you in your heart or in your mind. I saw it, I could see it, I could hear it. And I remember years ago reading about it.
Yeah.
But then now when you hear someone that actually tell you about it in a personal experience, you're like, oh my God. My God.
This is how they steal lives. This is how they steal men from the community.
Yes.
Respectable, decent officers that are trying to bring peace to the community. A peace officer has to be destroyed. And that Daley was directly involved, and Bill Clinton came and gave them credit, so they had to be brought down.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly, but
so my question would be to them, to the outstanding young men. First of all, I applaud you. First of all, when you're lying, and one of the things, by the way, guys, I've been an activist. One of the things that happens, and a researcher, I'm an activist and researcher, you can never tell a lie straight. There's no way, there's no way to tell a lie straight. There's just no, it's always going to be a lie. And I commend you for doing the research to find out the truth. And of course, the truth is going to come out. I want to know if you all have tried to talk to any documentarians to see if there's can be some fire under the story to be brought to a bigger stage.
Well, I am a documentarian. And
Okay.
I've done documentaries on everybody from Nelson Mandela to, Jim Jones back in the 70s when I worked as the first and only Black on television in Central California.
Okay.
So I've done that kind of work. But you know, the difficulty is getting the kind of information that is indisputable. That when you start with a documentary, or when you start writing an article, or when you start writing a treatment on this, people shake their heads. We went to 26 in California at the behest of Kim Fox, the state's attorney, and she told us to go and talk to her top people, and we did. We offered them all of this information written, packaged neatly, easy to read. And we never heard from them. When we called back to get a response, we never got a response. And the guy we talked to suddenly, as I recall, retired.
That's how they do it.
So you're saying that even with a Black in the prosecutor's office, you all still couldn't get any
corroboration? No.
And now what we're doing, we're going much higher, hopefully, to Kwame Raoul, and
that's good.
And to see if he will gravitate to this case. And we want him to get a grand jury impaneled outside of Chicago, outside of Cook County. We want it someplace else, because we cannot trust our own people.
Yes.
To do what is right in this case, because sure, it's going to open up a can of worms. But these officers did not deserve to have their lives turned upside down, inside out, and destroyed, sent to prison, losing their children while they're in prison.
Oh my God.
Doing the right thing in their community.
Being able to stand up and beat on your chest and talk about how, police oriented and justice oriented you are, when you have nothing more than criminalized people who did not deserve to be criminalized and made their lives a living hell.
Yes. Yes. Woo. Woo.
Again,
that's correct. And John, can I add this in real quick, and I'll be quiet?
So just I want to know this. So how many did you serve any time, young man? I mean, you're
no, ma'am. No. They couldn't. No, I've been fighting this case. Me and John has set up we had numerous press conferences. We met with Joe Ferguson. We gave him all this information. All you got to do, we got the reports right here. All you got to do right now is take this arrest report, go into the state's attorney's office or the police department, get on the computer, and punch this thing up right now, and it'll tell you that Philip K. Edwards is right now today, which is a lie. It's sitting over on Kedzie and Harrison, 22 years later, waiting to be arraigned at 26th Street. And it's a lie. But I want to say this because it's very important as time is going by. Me and John Davis had the pleasure of listening to Officer Jackson, who got 150 years. They did a resentencing on him. And the thing that stood out to me at the resentencing is he was put away from his family outside of Baltimore, between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. for 25 years. And the warden at the prison that he was at for 25 years wrote the judge a letter. And me and John both heard it on the Zoom call. And the warden said Officer Jackson was the most model prisoner he ever had in his whole entire time being a warden, 25 years. Wow. He said all this gentleman has ever did while he was in the penitentiary was help people get their GED, and he had not had one write-up. He had not one ticket of any indiscretion while he was there. And you mean to tell me, like John said, he lost the growth of his son, who is now in the reserve, and he's a nurse practitioner. And we could go on and on about the good work that these guys been doing since they got out. And what we're doing is, John is, like he said, he's a documentarian. We got people in place, but we need to have the community in an uproar, because when they did this to this community, look at the community right now today. It's the #1 crime district in the whole city of Chicago, and it started on December the 20th, 1996, when they took 7 officers off the street from the Austin district and spared the other officers from doing good work. And I'm through. That's my commentary, but I'll listen.
So what can we do to help or further this project that you all have been working on for so long? What can we as common citizens do to help move this project along?
You're doing it. Wanda, you're doing it. We're talking about it. We're discussing. We're spreading the information about this case because, you know, as you see, we can stitch this together with so many other occurrences and cases that have had a negative effect on our communities because of one gigantic lie, which was the Austin 7 case, where this so-called robbery put these guys in prison and marred and sullied their reputations forever. Well, you know, we need to talk about what is truth here, because now we know. You know, there was a Lieutenant Michael Flynn wrote his own op-ed piece in the Sun Times, in which he says that I know that there are officers and there are corrupt crews of police officers who commit armed robberies. He says, I know of a crew that robbed Polish and Hispanic immigrants, and the CPD Internal Affairs Division investigation failed because a chief was tipping off the officers. So this is not just the Austin 7. This sort of permeates the higher echelons of the police department. And this particular officer was talking about how some officers were so afraid of these corrupt cops that they would actually park their cars way away from work and catch a bus to work or take the train or whatever, just to disguise their comings and goings from their own investigation.
Oh my God.
Wow, that is deep.
But that's not shocking. Thank you for that information. That's not shocking, because that's what you have to do if you're working with thugs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. Thugs.
Yes.
They are legal. They are legal thugs. Legal.
I want to just say, you know, this has been very heart-wrenching.
Yes.
Because, you know, when you have innocent people who suffer in their innocence, you know, and I just want to just reference my son. He's in his 40s now, but he was a laboratory technician at the University of Illinois at 17. And the police took him from off of his porch and put their knee in his neck. And as I reflect now on all the brothers that has been happening to recently, and then to look back at that moment that my son was losing breath, and the only way of getting out of it was to bite the police. And that put a criminal record of violence to a police, that every door that he tried to get in was shut because of that. And we went to the FOP and, you know, whoever the reporting agency was at that time, and we went through that. The OPS, right. And we went through that system only to get a letter that it was unwarranted, right? And so I feel what you're saying, and it's not only happening to good police, because I do have some police friends that are really trying out here to make a difference. And the sad part is that our leadership is so weak that we can't, and I'm not going to say what we can't do, but it is evident in our leadership that we don't have the rights to have the ability to make a difference in our own communities.
Mhm.
And I've been a community activist for many, many years, and it's like a never-ending story, So, and Mr. Davis, when I saw you, I blinked my eyes and I was like, now, is that really who I think it is? Because you were definitely one of my favorite anchors. And to see that you are at the table, I know that there's integrity involved in this. And so I'd like to just know more about how we can affect change. And as you were saying, Wanda is doing it, putting this information out here. So, 6 people is a mighty, I don't know, 7, 8 people on here. That's a mighty number if it's multiplied by telling 10 other people. So, that's going to matter.
Yes, it will.
need-
Grady, you have any comments for John or for Officer T-C McCoy? I saw a hand up earlier and I think I lost that caller. That was Lionel Nixon, is one of our investigative reporters, and he was on. He had a question for you, John, but I think his phone dropped, his call dropped. So we'll get him the next time.
Grady is muted. Grady is muted.
Oh, Grady?
Yeah, yeah, I had to. I'm at home, so my wife always finding stuff for me to do. But I've been kind of following TC for a long time on that. So, but watching that video, I mean, I'm like, oh my God. You mean to tell me we got these kind of diabolical people riding around our neighborhood?
Yes.
Wow.
Setting up people, creating crime, and then locking them up for the crimes that they created. It's horrible. Horrible.
And you know what? I'm wondering, this is Reverend Jill again, that I have a show. It's called The View About You. Wonder if we could put that on my show as well, this recording.
Absolutely. You want to actually interview him on your show, or you just want to take the footage?
I want to take this recording,
okay,
and just put it on my show.
Absolutely, we can do that.
And I want to ask you.
I just want this, Grady. I just wanted to follow up when you mentioned about why do we go through this process of electing Black elected officials if they don't really have our best interest. This is a prime case of what we're talking about. So why we electing these people and they can't really do anything for us?
They don't really do anything for us. It's almost like, I mean, why would your senators and your state reps vote for a bill that's going to cause your taxes to go up every year, and they live in Illinois too? Tell me, what is that? So yes, we got a lot of folks that are in places that they shouldn't be because they're not working effectively to help the people, and that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Wanda, we need that's where it all starts and ends. This is a great opportunity when we see across the board, Black people in high positions of government all through the state of Illinois, all through the city council of Chicago. The #1 Democratic stronghold in Illinois is Cook County. Its president is a Black woman. The president of the county board is a Black woman. The #1 law enforcement person in Cook County is a woman, Black woman. The right hand to the governor is a Black woman. Lieutenant Governor Kwame Raoul is the #1 police officer in the state. I mean, you go on and on and on. Now, we squander this opportunity to take care of ourselves, because I'm sure the Irish would never have allowed this kind of advantage to just simply wither away.
Yes.
Or our Jewish brothers and sisters wouldn't allow this to wither away without taking full advantage of the numbers, of the positions, of the influence that they have while they have it.
While they have
it. This ain't gonna last forever.
Nope.
And if
Mr. Davis,
then we will have nobody to blame
but
ourselves and the people who look like us.
Come on now, come on. Let's
Mr. Davis, I have a question. Do you think that there's a fear there? Because
a fear of what? A fear of what? We've already had the roadmap of how this is supposed to work. It worked for the Polish, it worked for the Irish, it worked for the Germans, it works for you name it. Right. It's worked for everybody. We're still sitting by the door,
waiting to go through.
Waiting.
Okay. This is my question, because with Kim Fox, I have an issue with her when it comes to my nephew, who was he was the security in Robbins that was killed. several years ago. And that case was taken to her to see if the police should have been charged. He was not charged. And all evidence is when he got there, within 2 seconds, he was shooting. And I think he shot my nephew about 6 times. And he was the security that was holding down the person.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, they came to rob the place and he was killed. So I always wonder if and I called her office and you get, send a letter, send an email. But I always wondered with her, is she frightened for her life? Is she frightened for her family? What is it that they get these seats, but they don't move?
Oh, what's the underlying reason that people do what they do or don't do what they don't do?
Yes,
So,
yes. To me, I think
I think
that's not fair.
I think politics is a very dirty game, and when people do get in those positions, and I think that's why I've not worked for anyone in 30 years, because you lose your autonomy to be independent, to be an independent voice, and that's not to make an excuse for anyone, but the game is always different when we take the keys.
Yeah.
And there's so much that is not privy to us. It's like a lot of it's like the governor of I think the governor of Wisconsin is that, I don't know if that's wherever Evers is at, Minnesota, I don't know where the black governor, and then all of a sudden the Republican legislature refuses to let him have any autonomy to lead. They've taken away his ability to appoint. They've taken away his ability to make legislation. And so this is what's happening not only in Illinois and Chicago, but across the country. And democracy is definitely a tinderbox right now. And if we don't handle it locally, then how can we affect change nationally or globally? And so Black folks better get it together and know that
open your eyes.
We have the intelligence to give input. Because when I listen, I'm going to say this last thing. My mom is an advocate for watching her enemy, right? And so she's in her 80s, and I'm like, Ma, you just had so much of Trump. And she'll say, I'm going to watch what this guy's doing. You better watch what they're doing, because that stuff is going to be at your doorstep. And so when I look at these people, though, and the ignorance of them, I'm just flabbergasted that we are even in a country that has people talking about this is our leadership but the thing is that when you have a unified ignorance, then that's as powerful as however we are, ununified.
Yes.
So no matter what our numbers are, if we're not unified around this movement and not someone else's movement, because sometimes we get our movement jacked up by other people. We gotta have a unified thought that leads us into this new spectrum that we're going. My little granddaughter asked me 5 years old.
Levette, I think we lost you.
She said, "Can we be teleported to grandma's house?" which is her great grandmother, right? Can we be and I looked at her, right, and I was like, one day you just might be. And so we've got to be relevant in these times, but not so irrelevant as elders that we're not making intelligent decisions out here, because we're the leadership that these young people are looking at. And if they're looking at our failures, then how can we pass the ball to them without dropping it?
Well,
come on,
Levette, here's the situation. Again, when we look at the numbers, the sheer numbers of Black people in the State House in Illinois, in leadership positions, from the Speaker of the House all the way up and down. Here in Cook County and throughout the county, one of the largest counties in the country. In the Democratic Party, one of the largest Democratic, most influential Democratic parties in the country. And Black people are in the leadership, the driver's seat. Now, again, we only have a short time to take advantage of these positions and the power and the leverage that comes with it. And if we're sitting here pining over the fact that we can't get this and we can't do that, and why don't we have that? With these people sitting in those positions, it is our fault.
Yes.
Our fault.
Yes, indeed. I agree.
And those people who are looking to take full advantage of all of this, when we fail, when we fall, when we succumb to the fact that we did not take advantage of it, they will be laughing and wringing their hands with glee, because they survived us.
Yes.
All of these positions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they didn't lose a step. And we can look with all of this Black leadership, and we lost not only a step, we lost a quarter of a mile, we lost a half mile,
yeah,
a whole football field worth of advantages, and we've got nobody to blame. Now, what do you think our children and grandchildren are going to say to us, having taken the mantle from people like Martin Luther King Jr., Lou Palmer, and others, and all of a sudden, we can't even hold what we got? I used to run track, and my coach used to say, Johnny, you catch the band in front of you on my relay team. You take the baton and you run it. When you get to Roosevelt Fly, the next guy, you make sure that you have already taken the lead, and you give him a lead.
Yes.
You give him an advantage.
Yes.
To win this race.
Yes.
And that's what we're right now. We're sitting here talking about. We're supposed to be talking about moving the needle so much further forward that we will never have to have a discussion about how far back we failed.
Come on now, come on. Yes,
so
it's time.
Now, when people, I'm sorry,
our Black leadership's feet to the fire, and Kim Foxx, bless her little heart. I mean,
we're gonna have to call her to fire. We need to invite her to a show. Let's ask her what she's doing.
There you go.
Let's ask her what she's doing.
It seems like our Black leadership really is loyal to the Democratic Party as opposed to their constituents.
But who are the Democratic parties?
John just named them all.
Yeah, well, they don't seem to be working for us.
But I just want to sort of piggyback on what John was saying. John, that scenario that I gave, sometimes, I wake up and that's the reality of the people that I see, right? But Wanda and I, we're part of a few organizations, and we're warriors out here, right? So we are demanding the questions. I mean, we are demanding the answers. Sure. We are giving the questions of why. We are working in our communities to make a difference. And this is why Chicago Communicator News Media does what it does, because this is what we do. Sometimes I get calls at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to start talking about this. So I think what the solution and the next needle move would be to put fire under the feet of these people that are in leadership and ask the questions why and demand the answers and solutions.
Absolutely.
This is a good case. The Austin 7 case and the case of the mother who died of a broken heart, Marla Taylor, on the west side of Chicago, a nurse of tremendous esteem from the University of Chicago hospitals. And this woman she shouldn't have died of a broken heart, knowing that her son's killer was caught, but let out the back door by some crooked police officers who had recruited him to do something dastardly and illegal for them.
Yes.
I mean, if this, the reason we've been so on this is because it leads to so many other negative things, and potentially it sets the stage for continuation of
Yes.
corruption and violence against our people. And it's just got to stop.
It's got to stop. It's
As
got to
I
stop.
can do anything or you can do anything, we will do what we can on our own little square. And
That's
those
right.
squares will end up, making a great, huge mosaic of freedom.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
What does pressure on Kwame Raoul as a combined effort look like? What does that look like?
Letter writing and phone calls to begin with, and wherever these people are, people who have their fingers and their hands on the levers of justice, that's where we should be. We should be protesting. We should be calling them out. We should also be writing letters and trying to engage them in a sort of a civil discussion about where we go strategically. I mean,
there you go.
We don't want them to be out there to feel as though they're taking a big risk in helping their own people.
Right. Which is probably how they do feel. But at any rate, we're at the close of our show. We're gonna have to do some follow-up, John. We have to do some follow-up, Officer T-C McCoy, because we need to follow you guys. We need to do what we can to assist. We need to call these folks, as you just said, to the table and have them tell us why and we need to tell them what we want them to do, because see, they work for us. We need to get the roles reversed. They work for us. We do not work for them. So let's call it. Let's schedule another show and do some follow-up. Thank you, John. Thank you, T.C. McCoy. I appreciate
Thank you very much.
You all and everybody, all of our participants. Thanks so much. And I will. Did you get the footage, Reverend? And Grady, what did you say?
I was just saying thanks everybody. It was very educational. It filled in some of the blanks.
Grady, you are a warrior. Thank you, brother.
Thank you all. Thanks everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.